Hello, and welcome to this month's Insight Jam session, why AI needs good semantics and what to do about it. And like all of our jam sessions, we're going to focus on practical advice to take advantage of some really hot technical opportunities, overcome some of the problems, and help you get started and going and gain benefit. Before I get started, let's just celebrate a milestone. 2,000, as of yesterday, 2,000 Insight Jam members, which is an amazing accomplishment in just less than a year, and shows you the power of community. And then also the YouTube channel, the Insight Jam YouTube channel, if you're not on that, check it out. It's nearing 400,000. And this session today, between the two channels, will have probably 12 to 20,000 viewers. It's pretty amazing. So you're in good company, everybody who's on the call. So why focus on semantics when it comes to AI? I mean, it's just semantics. I mean, how often have you heard that, right? Well, that's certainly fine in light conversation. But when it comes to data management, it's a kind of, and particularly with respect to AI, saying it's just semantics would be a kind of a misinformed concept. Because semantics are very important. And let's just start with an example. Get your mind going about semantics and talk with some structured data. Let's say you wanted to use your large language model to help you build a campaign to sell to customers. So your classic marketing campaign. Where would we start? Well, first of all, we'd have to understand our customers. And so we need the model to probably go out and look in our marketing automation system or HubSpot or Marketo to kind of understand the customers there. And then we have to also look at our Salesforce automation system to get some insight about the customers there. So your Salesforce. And then, let's say we success for prior customers, we've actually sold them something. So we had to use our SAP order entry system and then maybe collect the money in Workday financials and then track and support the customer in ServiceNow. And then finally, we put some of that information in our Snowflake data lake. So, wow, that's a lot of places where you just need to understand the customer. And so the semantics of what are those access streams? How are those tables defined? I mean, I'm sure by now AI understands 5-letter German acronyms on the tens of thousands of tables inside SAP. But, that's just an example of the kind of access and table name semantics. And then what about rules? We want to sell, to customers. So we want to sell to prospects, but if a customer is already in our system, we say, well, exclude existing customers because we want to sell to prospects. But maybe someone's already an existing customer of product A, but we want to cross-sell them product B. Or if they're already bought product A, we want to more sell additional product A. Or we want to upsell from product A to product A prime. So just the rules around what's a customer, what's a product, what are we really kind of trying to communicate? That's another set of semantics. And then relationship semantics. Now we know which customers we want to target, but who are the salespeople? What are the regions? How does this all come together? And this is all just structured data. Let's talk about add in the unstructured stuff. Let's think about the web logs of the customer activity as they've been interacting with us on our site. Think about the recordings of conversations from the service system. Maybe we have some photographs of their actual installation of the product and how that might come in to our marketing campaign. So, and in fact, IDC said 90% of the business data is actually unstructured. So we're really talking about a lot of different areas where the semantics are important in the structured data and the semantics of unstructured data. How do we bring all that together and use the data itself via the semantics to make our AI models and algorithms, et cetera, successful? So with that goal in mind, we've brought together an all-star cast here because complex problems require complex solutions. So let's take advantage of experts who've addressed these problems in the past, and we can learn from them. So to help you guide you on your AI semantics journey, we've got three experts: Nicola Ashkam as a data governance coach at her own firm, Nicola Ashkam Unlimited, what the heck, coming to us from the UK. Juan Sequeda, who's the principal scientist and head of the AI lab at data.world. Good to have Juan back on this podcast. And then Sumit Pal, the strategic technology director at Onitext. So let's get started with some introductions. Nicola, tell us a little about yourself, your firm, et cetera, what you do there.
What do I do? So, I'm known as the data governance coach, and I like to describe it as saying that I help organizations understand and manage their data better. So I've been doing that for, nearly 22 years. I was about to say 21 years, but being a sad data governance person means that I would like to be quite exact. And we're only a few months off it getting to 22 years. But I think, it's been a really interesting journey, and I probably started out as a typical consultant, but over the years, I've morphed into doing a lot more of the training and coaching and giving people the capability to do data governance themselves. Because I just felt I could probably make more difference that way. And it's a really exciting time. It's always been fun. I'm passionate about data governance, but I think this explosion in Gen AI means that, we've got to understand our data. So this has been, a really exciting time, and a lot of my clients are starting some really exciting initiatives at the moment that are driving more demand for data governance than perhaps previously.
Great. Juan, welcome once again.
Thank you very much.
People update.
Yeah, so my name is Juan Sequeda. I'm the principal scientist and the head of the AI lab at data.world. So data.world, we are an enterprise data catalog and governance platform. So what Nicola is saying too is like right now with the whole, we've always needed cataloging governance, but I think now is even more kind of coming up to the focus of folks saying, hey, we really need to keep track and manage all the stuff that we have and the governance. Otherwise, like, what is this? We don't even know what mess we have, and we want to pass that mess off to AI. So that's what we do. We're our platform also completely built on top of a knowledge graph, and that gives us the entire the ability to be able to go connect all type of data and knowledge together. Our lab over a year ago now pushed out the kind of the seminal work on combining knowledge graphs with LLMs to increase the accuracy. So we've really, and kind of our vision has been from day zero that metadata comes together in the form of connecting all this metadata, because you really want to create like your brain of the organization. And that's the context. And guess what these models don't have? They don't have the context of your organization. And you want to be able to go build this and manage this and govern that. So that's what we do at Data.world. And I run a lot of innovations. I work with our very strategic customers to really push the barrier of not just Data.world, but also of what we should be doing in the catalog and governance industry. I'm also I co-host Cataloging Cocktails, honest, no BS, non-sales of data podcast. I've been doing that for we're on the 5th year now, right? So excited about having all these conversations. So thanks for having me.
So catalogs and cocktails, both very important concepts.
Of course. Coffee right now.
Sumit, welcome to the show, and thank you for joining. Tell us about you and Onitext.
Sure. Hello and welcome everyone, and thank you for joining. I'm excited to be here among the celebrities. And thank you for including me. My name is Sumit. I am based out of Boston. I'm a strategic, my role is a pretty scary sounding one. It's strategic technology director. I tend to do a lot of things from thought leadership to doing pre-sales as well as solutions architecting. I'm an ex-Gartner analyst, especially in the data management analytics space. I used to be a software developer architect all my life and have done a lot of data engineering since the big data came into the scene. I've also published a book that's about 8 years old now. And like nowadays books have 2 years or even less shelf life, right? I've also developed an online course on big data. Now, Onitext, is the name comes from onto and text. It's ontologies, and we were very strong with text analytics and text processing. Onitext is a global leader in graph databases used for building knowledge graphs based on semantic web standards. for knowledge management as well as content analytics. We have about 150 employees across the world. And OntoText's knowledge graph powers a lot of critical systems from life science, manufacturing, energy, finance, publishing, and others, especially wherever there is a need to connect disparate heterogeneous data sets. And for the records, we are listed on first page of Google search for a lot of terms like knowledge graphs, linked data, semantic annotation, Sparkle, GraphRag, NLQ, and all that. So with that, that's brief about myself and OntoText and about OntoText. So thank you.
Great. As you can see from some of this conversation already, we've mentioned knowledge graphs several times, but we're going to hold off on that until question number 2. We'll start with you, Juan, on question number 1. Why are semantics extra challenging in this AI domain?
Look,
It's always been challenging.
It's always been challenging, and actually, I mean, let's just actually talk about why it's challenging. I think this is going to open it up to Nicola and Sumit. Look, we have been, as an industry, we have been focusing on the problem of how do we create an infrastructure for the effective use of data by users, by people. And I'd argue that the problems that we have today are the same problems people have been having and kind of complaining about for 30 years or more. So what you described today, just kind of kicked off, right? So what have we been doing? Well, obviously we've been investing so much, and argue that a lot of the investments have been from a technical point of view, right? And we've advanced so much, right? From cloud storage, right? All this type of stuff we've done, and we went data warehouses to data lakes and all these things. But something that we have not been looking at is that this is really a social technical problem. And we're looking at this whole problem of just creating these infrastructures of managing data from a technical point of view. Now, also the people involved in this industry are argued that we're very technical engineering mindset. So if you think about it as kind of a stack, where the bottom of the stack is focusing on data and focusing on technology, this is where we feel very comfortable. And we've done so much, we've advanced so much in the last 30 plus years, all the technologies, all the standards too, right? I mean, from SQL to standards like open global formats and all that stuff. But the moment you start going up this stack, you start hitting where you want to go, oh, what does that data mean, right? Oh, I have to go talk to people. What are these meanings? So you're going up the stack from data to knowledge and from technology to people. And guess what? As technologists, we don't like to talk to people. So I think the issue here, why it's so challenging, is that the problem of data is not just a data technical problem. It's a social technical problem. It's thinking about the knowledge meaning, which involves people, which involves politics. It involves, right? I mean, the stakes get higher every time you go up that change, right? There's language barriers around things, right? And that's why interoperability standards are so hard. Semantic standards are so hard. I mean, why do we ETL things? We transform things because the meaning over here is different from the meaning over here, right? That's why we always move things. So this is my long-winded answer to why is it hard? Because it's a people social problem. And when we look at this problem for the last 30 years, we're a very technical problem. And I'd argue that if this is an opportunity to start investing in semantics and in knowledge, and if we don't do it, what's going to happen is that in 5 years time, we're going to continue complaining about, hey, what does this spreadsheet mean over here and that stuff, right? While on the consumer side, some stuff, all this stuff is happening. Right? My joke is we can take a rocket to space, bring it back to Earth, it lands on a platform, but we can't still match spreadsheets. So, but it's a hard job. This is harder than rocket science. Anyways, long-winded answer. This is the social side. I'm going to throw it because I'm already seeing Nicole already laughing around this stuff. Well, I think we're agreeing here, right?
Absolutely. I normally tell people that data governance isn't rocket science, but actually perhaps you're right, because I think you are right. Somebody actually gave a really good example of what you were just saying there in the training course I was running earlier in the week, where somebody said, one of my clients has got, 10 different definitions of revenue. How do I get them to agree on one? And, my first question is there only one? Are there multiple ones? And I think this is part of the problem. And I think you're right. I mean, I consider myself a business person. I'm not techie, but I've been told I'm techie enough to do the translation between the two. And I've got, as you say, very techie people who don't want to talk to the business, because obviously they're a pain in the backside, and they don't give you a straight answer in ways that IT can understand. But they're saying, "Well, quick, we're building this. We need to know, what does revenue mean?" But actually, this could take weeks, and that's being optimistic, of chasing around to find the right business stakeholders. And wouldn't it be lovely if we didn't all work so much more remotely now, and I could actually lock them in a meeting room until they agree? But actually, I can tell from experience, they might never agree. We might actually have to agree that perhaps it's not 10 definitions of revenue, perhaps it's only 5, but we need to come to a conclusion on 5, and we need to name them all appropriately and document them. And only then can we hand it over and go, there you go, IT. Now we've actually finally agreed it's what revenue is.
One quick comment here is, like, I think a complaint I have, and this is an annoyance, is people say, "Oh, there's so many definitions of revenue and customers." Like, that's true. Do you know how many there are? Can you at least go start counting them, cataloging them? And then you realize you said you had 15, but when you talk, you really, it's actually only 5. Like, we don't even know that. And I think that is already a huge step forward.
Yeah, I think you're right, because I've had, you must have had similar, given what you do. So many clients say to me, we need or we want a common language. And I always say, well, let's just settle for understanding what you all mean by the current language you use, and then we can debate whether we need to have a common one, or whether what we've got is good enough once we actually all understand that you might need something different from a customer than what I mean.
Sumit, what do you think? What makes it so hard?
Yeah, I think I'll definitely talk about my views, but what Juan said, right, is I think the other problem is about findability. Right, findability is a huge challenge today, and I think about a few years back, McKinsey and IDC did some study where they found out that workers or knowledge workers spend about 30% of their time just finding the right data. Right, data is scattered, as you said. You have 15 different versions of revenue, but actually it's 5. So yeah, they really don't know. So I think when you are saying about AI, you're talking about artificial intelligence, not about Apple intelligence, right? So Gen AI has become like sort of, Gen AI, we all know, is sort of unexplainable, unpredictable, uncontrollable. And, I think Snowflake CEO had made a statement saying, there is no AI strategy without a data strategy. And in my opinion, for organizations to embrace AI, they need to start at IA, which is information architecture. That is something that is, as Juan is alluding, has been missing, right? We have been so buzzword driven with technology, the lower aspects of the stack, right? You see different courses, you see academic institutes focusing only on the technology, but hardly there is anyone teaching semantics, right? Anyone teaching information architecture, or students getting really excited about information architecture. And that is where I think from semantics comes in, right? And Gartner recently had a quote, I think by 2025 or 2026. It says, again, coming back to knowledge graphs, because I come from a company that helps build knowledge graphs, right? Companies that use semantics and graphs for natural language technology will have less, much less AI technical debt than those that do not, right? And even if it is AI, garbage in, garbage out still applies, right? The whole flywheel about, bad data getting into the system, polluting the model in its future training cycles will keep biting us, right? And if we leave AI for a second and ask ourselves these questions, for example, why a lot of the first, second generation data lakes failed, right? Why is data becoming increasingly harder to find? Why do LLMs hallucinate, right? And the answer is, lack of semantics. And for most organizations, semantic layer, where the actual semantic comes from, I joke often saying it is semantic later. We'll think about it later on, right? Semantic layer becomes let's figure out the technology. We are so excited about it. And that's the major challenge, I think. And with LLMs, I think semantic, as your question was, like, why do semantics become more important in this age of Gen AI? LLMs badly need grounding context to be successful, right? And this context is the factual data plus the rich domain knowledge, right? the quality of the data, ability to use and reuse concepts, the traceability aspects, right? LLMs cannot tell you where they're getting their answers from, right? Machine readability, again, semantics and this whole technology about fair data principles is so important, right? Findability, accessibility, interoperability, and reusability. So in my opinion, with multimodal data, with Gen AI now, with multimodal data, unstructured, structured, semi-structured, semantic becomes even more important. And most organizations have about 70-80% of their data is unstructured, right? That's how I would put it.
So big problems, human, technical, the lack of investment in knowledge itself, semantics layers, semantics later. I think, Juan, you're going to steal that one. I could see that. I can see your eyes brighten up.
I'm using that. Wait, credible criticism. Yes.
But Juan, knowledge graphs. So how do they improve things? Effectiveness, accuracy, performance, improve anything.
Yeah. So before we actually get into the knowledge graph percent the black part, like let's talk about the semantics, because a lot of the just people have been talking about these semantic layers, and there's so many organizations and companies doing this type of stuff. And then the first thing is that coming up with this model, a conceptual model, right? By the way, this isn't new, right? We've been doing this type of work since the beginning, right? Of just databases. I mean, you look to your textbook of databases, conceptual modeling, logical modeling, physical modeling, all that type of stuff. Your conceptual model itself, right there, is your semantics, is how you're defining things. I think, but what has happened over time is that we kind of start with the conceptual modeling, but then remember that's higher up in the stack. And we go down to the physical model, and that's lower in the stack. And then when we make changes and we do code changes, what do? We change to the physical, and that does not get replicated into the conceptual. And then people complain, oh, like, yeah, that conceptual, oh, that's from like 5 years ago. That doesn't match anything, doesn't care, right? So that's kind of just been our ad hoc manner, right? That's what we lack these methodologies and these processes around that. So I think, my point here is that we've been doing semantics, or it's been kind of inside of our world, and some people have been doing it, but we're kind of forgetting about that stuff. I think now there's an incentive to go do this. Now, and you see all these companies doing semantic layers and stuff. It's just effectively like, I just want to keep my beautiful, call it a third normal form model, or even if you're fact and dimension tables, like your dimensions have semantics. I mean, those can be your taxonomy, right? Those are things in there, right? But there's semantics right there. When it comes to knowledge graphs in particular, I think this really elevates things to put the data and the knowledge as a first-class citizen. The knowledge part, the meaning is like, oh, my concepts, my relationships, my attributes, like those are actually something that exist, that are queryable, that I can name, I can have identify, and then I can integrate data coming from so many diverse sources. Graphs are just really nimble. Like I can take text. What do I do with text? I can turn that into triples into graph. I can take tables to turn and map that into graphs, and I can take tree structures, JSON, XML, and connect that to graphs, right? So graph is this very kind of flexible model that can bring in data from so many places. Now, for the use cases where you're like, I have these known use cases of today, but I also have to deal with some unknown stuff tomorrow. Like you want to have that flexibility. So if you're just fixed on some certain use cases, then kind of taking that step to the knowledge graph part may be too much of an overkill right now. But where you are in scenarios where you need to go deal with the unknowns, that's where they really shine around things. So then kind of like jump into where we are in the last year and a half with the LLMs. Of course, everybody says, ChatGPT, I want to chat with my data, with my structured data. Because that's where, I mean, yes, there's 90% of unstructured, but I'm making all my financial decisions and business decisions based on the numbers that I'm calculating, not on just querying documents and text, right? So I want to be able to go chat with that, not BI dashboards and so forth. Oh, by the way, text to SQL has been a problem people have been working on for 3 decades or longer. So this is not a new problem. But now we think that it became easier with LLMs and everybody started doing this stuff. We are hypothesized that it looks cute for these couple of tables and these easy questions, and all these benchmarks were really easy. And actually, what was the folks at Snowflake over a year and a half ago who challenged us, saying, okay, we get that the semantics knowledge graph is needed, but how does it actually work, and how actually much does it improve it? Is it actually worth it or not? And that was the work that we put out, and we kind of looked at, created a benchmark around this from an enterprise perspective, really thought about kind of like the different types of questions, and the result of our research showed clearly that if you take a relational database and you ask questions through an LLM, just simple prompting, and you invested in the semantics, and you invested in creating that semantic, in this case as a knowledge graph, and you asked the questions and turned the knowledge graph also through a very simple prompt, it was 3 times more accurate by just making that investment. And then we further did more kind of tests on leveraging more of the semantics, and we got that to 4 times more around this stuff. Bottom line, that semantics is the meaning, that semantics needs to be governed. I should be investing in that, treated as a first-class citizen. I'm already getting 4 times more accuracy, at least when I'm looking at these LM applications. And guess what? Now all these database companies are now talking about semantics, which you think they were talking about semantics a year and a half ago? No, absolutely not. Now they are. So this is a huge win, and people are realizing if we want to be successful with AI, these large language models, to chat with our data and stuff, you must invest in semantics. You must invest, because if you don't, you will lose. Don't be a loser.
Want more Insight Jam? Follow us on Instagram for exclusive content like a daily dose of best practices and buying advice from industry experts and leading solution providers. Or subscribe to our YouTube channel for long-form highlights from our expert panel discussions. The Solutions Review team is hard at work collecting the best enterprise technology information from around the globe, so don't miss out.
Sumit, you've invested your personal career. You have a portfolio of 1 as far as jobs you can take at any particular time. And then you chose to go to a company that does knowledge graphs in this era of AI. So what was it you saw in these knowledge graphs that saw that this was going to be, not just an opportunity for, in general for that market, but also an opportunity for you as an individual, and you're developing your career and your lifestyle?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've been doing graphs since the last millennium, since my bachelor's in computer science days. Especially graph analytics, graph algorithms, right? I also saw some problems with graphs way back in 2000, mid 2006, 2007 timeframe with some kind of an influencer kind of an application, which was very well suitable for graphs, and graph databases were not there, and I had to write the algorithms there myself. And I think one of the reasons I got into knowledge graphs was knowledge graphs has always fascinated me in terms of their capabilities, especially ability to not only integrate disparate heterogeneous data sets, but semantically integrate them, right? Their conformance to standards, the interoperability capabilities, right? Where because knowledge graphs, especially those that are based on RDFs, it becomes very easy to semantically integrate diverse data sets, bring the conceptual semantics. And I think a few years back, while I was at Gartner, I read this article on Forbes where someone was, I forget who exactly it was, but it's something related to, they were saying that, machine learning needs semantics, not just statistics, right? And that is one of the reasons why you see a lot of the financial institutes have moved away from plain machine learning based fraud detection to using graphs, because graphs give you a lot more semantics, the cohorts, the clusters, all that, right? Now, in this age of AI, I think knowledge graphs are still very relevant because they provide this interconnected representation of knowledge, right? Enabling these AI systems to access vast amounts of information, capturing all the concepts, the attributes related to entities, the relationships. And one of the things around AI is interpretability and explainability, right? And we at OnToText have shown with our graph RAG approaches that we have our own internal knowledge graph, that we use LLMs to answer natural language queries, but then we can trace them back to the source, which a typical LLM or a chat GPT for who will not be able to do it, right? The other aspect of knowledge graph, I think, is around data quality, right? A knowledge graph typically will not allow you to have duplicates coming into the system because, especially with RDF-based shackle approaches, right, where you can put constraints declaratively, you control the quality right at the beginning, at the time of data ingestion, right? We at Ontodex are also trying, and we have done some work with, putting your AI risks under control, especially limiting hallucination, verifying answers from knowledge graph, from LLM outputs to our own knowledge graph, the domain-specific knowledge graph, if it really matches in terms of concepts and the semantics, right? I hope that answers my question.
It's great. You're talking about quality, interoperability, conformance, just the ability to get an understanding or an inventory of the current reality. It seems to me, Nicola, from a data governance point of view, that exposure, and in the first place, like you said, hey, we've got 10 definitions of whatever, but also a nimbleness in terms of maybe as the committee meets or as the people agree on things. Do you see that those elements, those human elements being enabled when you have better insights from these knowledge graphs?
Oh, I think so, definitely. And I think, you could think of a knowledge graph as an ontology. And I think if you said to a business user, here's a knowledge graph, here's an ontology, they'll go, whoa, don't know what that is. However, when you draw it out as a simple diagram, it really helps them. And I think when Juan was talking earlier, and many years ago in my career, I did a data modeling course, and I was fine with the logical modeling, and I like logical models for a business user. Apparently that's unusual. Physical just lost me entirely. It's far too techy and detailed. But I fell in love with conceptual data models. And I just love that kind of, it's just an easy way to get out of people's heads and document what they think from a business point of view. And I think knowledge graphs are, as Juan was saying, they are almost like just a different way of documenting the information that was in the conceptual data model. And in a funny kind of way, I think that business users can get their heads around them maybe a little bit easier. Perhaps not if we call them knowledge graphs, but just a simple tutorial diagram of saying this is how your data is related to each other. And we don't have to talk about, all the things you do once you start doing logical data modeling and, what's the, it can just be in simple language that they can understand, and then helps them understand, like Sumit's saying, actually, will we get this from two different sources? We didn't realize it was in two different sources. One's been rejected because we can't have duplicates. So I think they're a good way to perhaps illustrate and talk people through it, because most organizations, even smallest organizations I've helped with, have thousands of different data attributes. You can't say to somebody, I know what, let's identify them all, put them in an Excel spreadsheet. I'm sure some people have tried this from what they've told me. We'll just send it around the whole company and say, which of these are really important? And, which of these do we want to write definitions for? Who knows? And I love the idea of making something much more easy and accessible for a business user to start realizing this is how my data is connected. This is the data that's really important and what we have got to address the semantics for.
So what you're saying in some ways that visualization is a powerful thing for business users and help move up one stack into knowledge and business process and people. Visualization is a super great common denominator, but which is fantastic, because otherwise, hey, I want to see the sequel, or I want to see the table names, or what system does this come from? Is that that's not how it is in Marketo. So people have get their views limited. But also, you guys are talking about almost like a neutral domain. It's a kind of I don't want to use a military term, demilitarized zone, but more of a big park where everybody can go to and be happy, and kind of interact around the data that's not, that's friendly, more friendly. And then that maybe come through the catalog and the semantic layer itself that's enabled by this visualization. Juan, what do you think?
Well, that's the technical aspect. And I think from a technical point of view, we have the tools out there, right? That's why we have catalog and governance tools around that. Can we make them better? Of course. And we are striving to go do this type of stuff, right? We need to make it easier to inject and manage semantics more around these things. Like that, definitely we need to go make that better and it's software, right? But I think it goes back to the whole people and social aspect. Like this is a cultural issue. Like Nicole was saying earlier, like, oh, why we need to have one language to go to this, like that mentality, that's culture. And we need to go probably say, no, you know what? We don't. We live in a world where not everybody speaks the same language, right? English may be a common language, but we still have a lot of other languages to communicate, right? So I think that's kind of part of the culture. There's the culture. One of the biggest issues about culture here is to really understand people's behavior and their incentives of what drives us. And one, we should understand what's driving people today, but also like connect the incentives back to how is this actually going to improve the business. So one very concrete example, right? You want to be very practical takeaways. So this is a customer of ours. It's Prologis. They're the world's largest kind of real estate logistics company. If you buy anything on Amazon, 80% chance it goes to a Prologis warehouse around the world. So they sell space in their warehouse. So what happens if I don't have the correct height of a warehouse? I'm leaving money. If I said it's 40, but it's actually 50 feet, right? I'm leaving money on the table. I could have sold more space. Or if it was the other way around, I sold more space, but I don't have the space to go do that. But think about semantics is that, well, if I'm saving data around this about a height, I know that this is a height. It should be an integer. It can't be null because if null means that a value exists. The heights of warehouses are between 15 and 50 feet. So that's a rule right there. That's semantics. The regulation in the U.S. changed, and after 95, it was before 95, it was 25. These are all rules that you want to be able to go do that, which you can use then for quality. And why do I want to enforce that? Because if I know I have bad quality scores around this stuff, I'm losing money or I'm leaving money on the table. So you know what they did? They created they identified a bunch of business scenarios like this, and they said, we are going to create a metrics around data quality, and we're going to tie it to everybody's bonus. 20% of everybody's bonus, from the executive to boots on the ground with the clipboard. Money that you're going to take in your pocket at the end of the year. 20% depends that we all hit these numbers, these data quality metrics. And their goal wasn't really to say, oh, look, we improved the quality metrics for these 5 business units and we made more money. Like that happened. But they wanted to drive culture. People care about this now. And that is an incentive coming all the way from the top, and people get that from the bottom, understand these types of stuff. And look, people say, well, oh, that's hard and whatever. Yeah, this is why it's a hard problem. This is harder than rocket science, right? But this happens in the world. Look at Wikipedia. For example, Wikidata, look at Schema, or all these things that we have been able to get people. We have governance processes around this stuff. This can happen. It just is a cultural mindset to go do it. And really, anyways, let me stop. I'll stop right there.
No, that was a great example because I think it tells the whole story from the business challenge through to an approach that was cultural and incentive-wise and behaviors. Sumit, do you have some examples where people have kind of used these knowledge graphs to enable a semantic layer and kind of change behaviors and gain benefits?
Yeah, knowledge graphs, have been used in the semantic layer, especially they are, in my opinion, especially as we go to this Gen AI age or AI age, right? Where there is a lot of unstructured data, and knowledge graphs have been very good working with both structured data as well as unstructured data, right? And that is where your semantic layer, which is based on the conceptual model, based on domain-specific ontologies, taxonomies, your controlled vocabularies, helping you to understand the data more deeply in terms of concepts, in terms of hierarchies, right? That kind of a solution is where, a lot of the data fabric aspect, the pattern of data fabric is being used, where data fabrics are sort of, the semantic layer powered by knowledge graphs that can join both the worlds of unstructured data as well as structured data into a conceptual whole. And then that powers your semantic applications. And we at OntoText have a lot of customers who are building semantic applications based on this conceptual model where they have their own domain data, domain ontologies, and they are linking this data across different data sources. Like the example Juan gave, right? Where there are different ontologies for, let's say, building specifications, right? That are all specified in text data. And we can parse that text data and extract out the rules, extract out the entities, build the relationships, and then that ontology is tied to your instance data. And when you are trying to bring in a wrong instance data, where his example was your building height is 40, right? Or it is 50, whatever it is. We can quickly detect bad data coming because now we have easy way to integrate with unstructured data where, it's specified as appliances, rules, regulations across the different sectors. Hope that answers your question, though.
Great. Nicola, thank you. Nicola, from a starting point of view, is there low-hanging fruit in this kind of governance, people, semantics, knowledge, structured, unstructured? I mean, there's so many opportunities. But, where do you see people starting, low-hanging fruit? But, where's the art of the possible in all of this?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, Bob, because I think, listening to everybody talk, you just get so excited. This will be amazing. We'll apply this to all our data, and we'll just, the possibilities are endless. And it's true, they are. But we've had however many years our organizations have been ongoing without, documenting and understanding what data we've got where. It's too big a task to start now. So I always tell my clients to focus on whatever their strategic aims are. And now we know a lot of organizations have got it in their strategies now to adopt AI. And yeah, that's great. But to do what? What is the business outcome you want to achieve? And I think once we drill down to that, we go, well, to do that, let's work out what data is needed. And I think you need to focus on that, because I've never been a fan of anybody who says, the kind of prospective client I run a mile from are the ones that go, we want data governance put in 3 months, please. Which I go, yeah, no, it's not going to happen. So we need to kind of make almost like our scope as small as possible. And I really think that if we can do the use case and get it, working once, then people go, wow, that's amazing. We want to use that AI tool to do this next. And then, people will want to get their data documented. I think that's possibly been one of the hardest things I found over the years is it's been easy enough to get data documented for regulatory reasons because there's somebody with a big stick standing behind you. I mean, it's only in recent years that I've seen people start doing actually there's bigger business benefits in doing this, and they've wanted to do more, but it still seemed a lot of hard slog until we started getting the kind of outcomes from it. And I think AI is going to speed that up, but we're only going to get the right outcomes and the good outcomes if we can get the semantics right. So I think we're all agreed on that. So I think it's making those first use cases small enough scope and hopefully aligned to the business strategy that people are excited about, so that they want to work with you and give you those definitions, not oh dear, Nicola just wants to document everything for best practice. Because I may have been guilty of doing that 21 years ago. And I've learned the hard way that that's not a good way forward.
So a little more specifics around align with the business, so to speak, align with a real business project and initiative that has funding, and then where the data itself is on the critical path. So it's not a nice to have to get all this sort of stuff organized, and at least organize it for the scope of the project itself. Now, that seems to me a lot of requirements. And I also like success builds on success. Let's get associated with something that's successful, and then people are willing to maybe make a little more change or invest a little bit more. But what about you, Juan? It's like knowledge graphs, semantic layers. That's a big old thing. And then Nicola's talking about surgical. Is there some intersection point between the two?
So I think we need to ask ourselves, why do we need to why should we invest in semantics and knowledge, first of all, right? This is the case you need to go make to your colleagues and to your leadership. One, AI is an argument. All right, done, quick. Second one, I think, is it's finding, if we live in trying to find this saying, urgent trumps important. We always live in this world where I need to be efficient and think about the short-term wins. And we know that we should go do this long-term stuff, but urgent always trumps important. So I posit that invested in knowledge helps you find that balance between efficiency and resilience, right? I'll figure out what is urgent, what is important. Because what happens a lot is that we do all this work for that urgent thing, do all this work for that urgent thing, and so forth. That doesn't scale, right? And that's what we always keep doing, all these things. So but the semantics, the knowledge enables us to say, oh, if I'm going to go do this work, I want to make sure that I'm not only doing it just for this use case one, use case two. This should also use for these unknown use cases going forward, which means that we need to really go talk to people and say, hey, I'm going to do this stuff. And based on what I hear from you, like, these are problems that you have right now or you're going to encounter. I'm going to solve this problem for you. And I'm like, oh, that's great, right? So this is kind of the people process trying to understand, and we just need to get better at making these economical arguments. So it's more of a people social problem, right? From an economical point of view, I think about it as 4, right? We really want to achieve economies of scale. 1 + 1 needs to be greater than 2, because right now we're just doing 1 + 1 is 2 all the time. We want to be able to go scale around this stuff because it gets us fit for growth, helps us with our competitors around that stuff. The issue around this is that, well, acknowledge is that you're making an investment, right? So you're not producing anything, right? So that's why you need to find a balance between kind of an urgent thing and also kind of doing foundations. Second, look, we complain so much about debt and the technical debt, and this is a tax that we're paying. I mean, I see some of these stats, 20 to 40% of IT budget is being spent on maintaining code. We have an opportunity to extract that knowledge around that stuff and make that sustainable, maintainable, and reduce that cost. Wouldn't that be great to go do that such that you spend your time and money not just making sure the pipeline doesn't break, but you can spend that on bigger problems. So but you can tie that then to the actually knowing how much code is being maintained, because I don't even know what this means, right? Which another reason why we don't know what this means is the fourth argument is that employees leave with all their knowledge in their head, right? And that's the reason why we have all of this debt. So I think all of this stuff is connected, and it's just us as data professionals to really take the challenge and go up that hierarchy. I mean, as Gregor Hope says, you have that elevator. I should be able to go. I mean, the best people, I will say, are the ones who can take that elevator down to the engine room, but can go up all the way to the penthouse. It can have those conversations all around. So I think those are the leaders who are in the industry who are really going to go strive around this stuff. So I think we need to really make these cases about why we want to invest in knowledge. So again, AI, finding this balance between efficiency and resilience, going to do that. And there's these economic arguments about achieving the economies of scale, right? Reducing the technical debt, the tax that we're paying on that. How much money is at risk do we have with employee churn that takes all their knowledge out? This is stuff that we live through every day, and it's right in front of us, and we need to go talk to people to be able to do that. By the way, we should also have accountants on data teams to keep us honest on this stuff. I literally need an account to say, because that should be dollar signs that we can put on the ledger.
Sumit, as you think about your clients and investments and practical starting points, et cetera, what's that make you think of? Where are some success paths?
Yeah, I think, the good part with semantics is, semantics defined once can be used across the organization, right? And that ensures accuracy, clarity, enables consistency, removes ambiguity, right? Any ambiguity is removed, right? And now it's much easier to start with semantics. There are a lot of well-defined public ontologies, taxonomies that you do not have to start from scratch. All these ontologies, taxonomies are represented in the graph, right? And in that graph, you connect your instance data to form the knowledge graph, right? We have seen success with, across multiple industries from, media and publishing, like BBC, Springer News. They are using a lot of semantic technologies to enable knowledge discovery, more efficient knowledge discovery, right? We have built, for example, in the life science, for the life science pharma companies, what is called linked data inventory, where in the life science space, a lot of the ontologies, taxonomies, vocabularies are already integrated. They are available for organizations to purchase or use to integrate it with their instance data. We all use knowledge graphs every day, right? Based on schema.org. Anytime you use a search engine, you are using the knowledge graph. Now, the world is moving away from searching with keywords, right, to more semantic searching, searching not for strings, but with things. And this is becoming much more easier now with a lot of out-of-the-box capabilities available. Building knowledge graphs is becoming easier with LLMs. When LLMs came, there was this whole thing about there is this beautiful synergy between LLMs and knowledge graphs. LLMs can help build knowledge graphs, certain aspects, relation extraction, entity extraction. And knowledge graphs are also helping LLMs in terms of the guide rails and all that.
It seems to me, kind of going back to something that was said earlier, that the knowledge graphs, this visualization and the nimbleness that allows you to modify, it's one thing to see and understand, but then if you just don't feel like you could do anything about it, you just give up, right? So, and it seems to me that catalogs have that same element to them. You can see and understand much better and engage humans much better. Am I missing? Is that the key point underneath, really, for attaching to people? Well, Juan, do you think that's where people attach mentally, physically?
Like, that I am biased. To be honest, no BS. I work and represent data.world, the data catalog governance platform. But I will also acknowledge that I've been working in knowledge graphs for 2 decades of my life. So that my bias is also kind of my career, where my vision has always been. So putting all that there, I realized 6-7 years ago that the success starts is by understanding your technical metadata. I think I realized that because that gives you a landscape of the reality of what exists. Not what is in people's head, but like, this is exactly the systems I have. So I would argue that your first knowledge graph should be of your technical metadata. And that's stuff that's automatically generated. There is zero human input and by the way, the reason why a knowledge graph is really great for this is because remember when you talk about the known use cases and the unknown use cases? Well, tomorrow somebody's going to say, well, I also want to be able to see how that system connects with that one and that system with that one and that, right? But here's all these systems that I can put it together and start making the connections. And that's why we see catalogs. I think the 3 main use cases for catalogs are search and discovery. I want to find what do they have. Governance, right? Where is my PII? Who has access? Who is like, as fresh as this metadata? And third is the data ops, right? Where is the data flowing? Where upstream, downstream issues and so forth. Now, but we should, and I think the data catalog market kind of stays there on that technical side. Lower in the stack, remember? But we need to go increase the stack. We should be connecting people. We should be connecting our business processes. We should keep adding more and more of that stuff. And from a knowledge graph perspective, they're like, yeah, just add that, just connect that. And then we start increasing. So for me, like, you start from that data catalog of the technical metadata, and then you start adding more things to that, depending on your use cases, your strategy, your business. That, like, you can go create everything in your world, but why would you do that, right? Just because you can doesn't mean you should. So we talk about data lineage. I want to know that if I change this column, it's going to break this dashboard. Well, that dashboard is being used for which people to do which decision. That I should have that too, right? Because I want to know that I want to find the bottlenecks. How many, there's this decision and the input to the decision, you need this data goes into it. These people go into that. And then this decision goes off. I'm like, wow, that's a bottleneck right there. Basically, I'm looking a little, even the graph analysis around that stuff. So I really urge people to think about, if you're looking in catalog and stuff like this, you start with your technical metadata, but literally think about what should go next. And like, oh, I should be able to connect people, business processes, decisions, outcomes, like all of that should be connected. You want to then connect your actual customers, your orders, your products, your product inventory, like all of that stuff should get connected. And that's how you build literally the brain of organization. It's not going to happen overnight, right? AI is helping us also to automate this stuff. But I think that's the vision we need to get towards.
Great. Thanks, Juan. Nicola, you're the data governance expert on the call. We have spent a lot of time down in the tech. What do you think? Should people invest here? And is just the way Juan and Sumit talked about the opportunities? Does that make sense to you? And could you feel like you could bring that to your clients and have them?
Yeah. And I think I always say that I don't have any trouble explaining the concepts of data governance and why people might want to do it. But then, I've never had anybody say we shouldn't do it, but they often tell me we can't. It's too big, it's too complicated, and we want to work on. And I think that's actually what Juan was saying, was reminding me of instances before where if you try and do data governance, even like, if we haven't got a budget for a catalog tool, we've got to start somewhere. We might as well start with an Excel spreadsheet. But you start with a blank and everybody goes, I don't know where to start. So as Juan was just talking, I was thinking, that would be great. And actually what we've done is sometimes just something on some paper from some BA's heads, or we've documented a really rough and ropey data lineage. You put the diagram in front of people, and I can imagine the same working with your knowledge graph of your technical metadata, that the business say, oh, but what about, and we've got so-and-so on the spreadsheet as well, because we always have data on spreadsheets. And it would be really good, exactly what Juan was just saying, if we could connect that data to so-and-so. I mean, I have time again, I work across so many sectors now, I'm really lucky, but the higher education sector, they have many specific issues with data to themselves. But one that's quite common is that they can't connect timetables to rooms. So it is a really manual process to work out which lectures are going to be in which rooms. And could you imagine if you could give them a diagram that said, look, they're here and there's a big gap in between them, and they're immediately going to say, we want that data connected. So I think there is a lot of value in knowledge graphs and using this semantic layer to help business users to be able to articulate to us what they want. Because my personal feeling is that people haven't done data wrong or structured it less well over the years deliberately to make everybody's life difficult now. They did what they had to do to get their job done because nobody told them the importance of the big picture. So over years, our big picture has now got really, really complicated, and it's really hard to unpick. So if we could use tools like this to help us unpick it, we can't use AI to get rid of the human context, which a lot of people on LinkedIn would have you believe. But we can use semantic layers and not laters. I love that one. So I'm definitely going to be using that one. I've picked up some really good sayings in this session. But we can use them to speed up getting that context out of the human's head and getting the value by making those connections that are going to be so hard doing manually and might take years to get to. So yeah, I'm really excited by all of this.
Sorry, you just validated my points, right? Break that efficiency and resilience, economies of scale. 1 + 1 is greater than.
We're running out of time, so I will close at this point. It seems like the running start is from this whole domain of all this possible data, structured and unstructured. The running start is start with your technical metadata, and then for one, and then Sumit said, there's also industry ontologies and taxonomies that you can leverage, and you should investigate those possibilities, and life science was the specific example. Those gives you a real running start. Then you then have this visualization from these knowledge graphs, generate these catalogs that kind of really allow the business people to get engaged on a more pragmatic basis, and or more general basis, and then pragmatically leverage the projects and initiatives to fund the work, to focus the work, to build the successes. But a little bit, while using Juan's point, is so while you're at it, see what else you can do on the 1 + 1 = 3 plan. Great insights from everyone. Complicated stuff, ever changing, but the opportunity is fantastic. Not just from the business opportunities of using the AI, the large language models, etc., but also using this new layers and capabilities of technology to overcome some of the challenges that we've created for ourselves over the last 30 years. With that, I'd like to thank everyone. Nicola, how can people reach you? What's the best way if they want to follow up?
Probably either LinkedIn. I think I am the only Nicola Askham that I've come across on there. Or on my website, easily called nicolaaskham.com as well.
Okay, and spell out Ashkam.
Askham.
Okay, great. Sumit, how can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about you or Onitext?
Sure, very simple. Sumit.pal and all the text.
Say it again.
Sumit, SUMIT.pal, PAL, at on the text.
Great. And you're also on LinkedIn. And Juan?
Same, you can find me on LinkedIn, listen to our podcast every week. I'm also Juan, Juan, at data.world. Easy to find. Here.
And when's the podcast weekly?
Every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Central. You can listen to us live, and then also hits all the podcasts on Thursdays.
Again, thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it, and look forward to future conversations with all of you. Good luck, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Solutions Review is inviting you to join InsightJam.com. What started a few years ago as a social media event to celebrate enterprise technology has now grown into an always-on tech community with live events, discussions, videos, vendor showcases, and industry resources. Our vetted roster of experts, thought leaders, and analysts are sharing tips and tricks daily. So if you're interested in getting involved, join the long list of companies and brands who have already participated by visiting InsightJam.com today.